Just start.
Streaming is on.
Bon dia. Welcome to Livestream number 5. Almost exactly 1 year ago, we welcomed more than 100 general managers and senior staff from AVIAREPS to our annual AVIAREPS General Manager meeting, which was back then held in beautiful Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I thought that's a good reason to return to Brazil, this time, unfortunately, digital. My name is Thomas Drechsler. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of AVIAREPS Tourism. And I have with me today Marcelo Kaiser. Marcelo is not only our General Manager of AVIAREPS Brazil based in São Paulo, he's also the Vice President for the entire Latin America region. Bon dia, Marcelo.
Bon dia, Thomas. Bon dia, everybody. It's a pleasure to talk a bit about Brazil as well as Latin America.
Thank you very much, Marcelo. So Marcelo, here's my first question to you. Latin America consists of 20 countries, 14 territories. For those of us who are not so familiar with Latin America, can you tell us a little bit more about the entire region, please?
Yes, of course. Latin America is huge. For those who are not familiar, it really starts from Mexico all the way down to Argentina and to Paraguay. The entire population across Latin America is 650 million people. And the major countries when it comes to the populations, Brazil takes also almost 1/3 of such populations with 212 million people, followed by Mexico, which is the second largest country, a bit more than 125 million people. Colombia appears as a third place, roughly 50 million people, coming by Argentina 45, then Peru 32, Venezuela 30. So those are the major countries in terms of populations in the region. When it comes to language, also for obvious reasons, the Europeans came to Latin America roughly 500 years ago. The majority of the countries in Latin America, we do speak Spanish. Brazil, it's the only country with Portuguese speaking language, but you also find some French and Dutch as official language across some islands in the Caribbean. Of course, aside from that, you will find different dialects in the region, mainly also in the islands in the Caribbean. Also, to give you some interesting aspects when it comes to outbound travels, especially when we talk about by air. Latin America has been growing solid over the past few years. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, Brazil and Mexico, sorry for that. Very briefly on the Latin American major aspects. When it comes to the population, Latin America overall, we have 650 million people all over the region. Major countries are Brazil with more than 210 million people, followed by Mexico with a bit more than 125 million citizens. Then third country, Colombia, then Argentina, then we have Venezuela, then we have the Chile. Those are the major countries when it comes to populations in Latin America. As I was just mentioned, for obvious reasons, the major languages in Latin America are, number one, Spanish, followed by Portuguese. Mainly Brazil is the only Portuguese country. And also you will find French and Dutch language, mainly in the Caribbean islands. And aside from that, lots of dialects across the region. And when it comes to outbound travels, especially by air, it's easy to track. Latin America has been showing strong and solid growth throughout the past years. The two major countries that take the lead on outbound travels are Brazil and Mexico, both of them with 5.2 millions per year, followed by Argentina and Colombia, each one with 4.4 millions every year. And to conclude, overall Latin America, how to get in the region. We have a few hubs across the region. The major ones, the largest ones are Mexico City and the city of São Paulo. Aside from that, you also have Colombia, which is the Bogota airport, Buenos Aires, Santiago, and Lima in Peru. And last but not least, we also have the Panama hub in the Central America. From those gateways, you can easily and mainly reach any city, small city in Latin America. So those are the 8 or 6 destinations and gateways that you have across the region.
Okay. Give me 1 second, Marcelo, and continue.
Okay.
This is fantastic. So Marcelo, how do you manage this enormous region? How many offices does AVIAREPS actually have in the country?
As you said, it's a large region. AVIAREPS' strategy in Latin America started mainly 10 years ago when it was expansion to the region. And of course, the company started with the largest countries. So total today we have 8 offices. Roughly 10 years ago, we opened Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Colombia, and Chile pretty much at the same time. And after consolidating those 5 markets, we have recently also expanded our reach over the past 2 years by opening Panama, Ecuador, and most recently, Peru.
Okay. And Brazil apparently is the biggest country for South as well as Latin America, correct?
Yes, Brazil is the cornerstone for the region, not in terms of AVIAREPS, but also when it comes to economy worldwide. When it comes to us, Brazil is already established market. This is where I'm also based. Giving you a bit of more insights about AVIAREPS Brazil. Currently, we have more than 20 clients that really goes from aviations, DMOs, hotels, trade promotions, and retail companies. We have strong clients for many, many years, such as Ethiopian Airlines, Cabo Verde, Singapore, Amazonas, and JetSmart, both regional carriers. But we also have a strong presence as destinations, including Brand USA, Portugal, Visit Florida, countings inside Florida, such as Palm Beach, Paradise Coast. A few destinations we also represent in Europe, such as Madeira Islands, Visit Flanders, Brussels. We take the lead on the digital services for Prom Peru. We have Millennium Hotels that they have hotels across the world. European Travel Commission, which is also our client for Brazil, and even including we also represent Virtuoso branch, which for those who are familiar with the travel industry, it's the Luxury Trade Association headquarters in the US. So just to give you a bit more of our portfolio in the Brazil, and the way we do it and how we do it is currently in Brazil we have excellent team, I would say the best team of 35 professionals, which each one of them have different skills coming with different backgrounds. Of course, since one of our cornerstones and pillars are aviation, most of them, they have aviation's background, but also travel industry. But also recently, due to our expansions, we also have brought people from different fields, coming from e-commerces, coming from retails, even coming from former Google staffs, really just allow us also to grow and to diversify into the digital markets. As I just mentioned, both sales and communications are part of our DNA. So this is pretty much what we do to support them to grow their business, regardless if it's a sales driven or if it's a communication driven. Just to give you a lump sum what we do, who we support in Brazil, and a bit of our team based in São Paulo. It's important also to add when it comes to the teams. Brazil is a massive country. Also, it's the 5th largest country in terms of territory in the world. So we do have salespeople spread out among the countries. So we have people in Rio, we have people in Porto Alegre, we have people in Salvador, and they take over those territories.
Excellent. Can you still apply for a position in Rio de Janeiro? I'm just kidding. A more serious question, Marcelo. Avianca recently declared bankruptcy, but they also said on a positive way that they are optimistic to resume flights once the outbreak is over. Can you give us a more detailed situation analysis about what's happening with airlift in Latin America, please?
Sorry, Thomas, I cut it. You were talking about currently situation in Brazil, what is happening.
Yes.
As we can see, this is not encouraging indeed. The fact that Brazil, we currently have, this week we should surpass a bit more than 900,000 cases of corona in Brazil. But as you can see, after 3 months in quarantine, Brazil is pretty much reopening to the cities, depend on the flexibility that each state have. Today, actually yesterday, the governors in the city of São Paulo, they allowed what they call a flexible quarantine, which will depend on city per city, but it allows offices, companies, shopping centers to reopen, at least for limited hours. So as you can see, I'm finally back to the office after almost three months working at home. And we also have good indicators when it comes to positive outlook for the future. Gradually, the local national carriers, LATAM, Azul, and Go, they have been expanding their capacity almost every week, growing by 20–30%. Also, finally, hotels in certain tourist destinations reopen for public, for business. They have some restrictions up to 25% occupation, according to the, of course, healthy protocols, but again, it shows a positive track. And when we look back and see how Asia, Europe, US were just 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we see how it's now, we do see and we do expect a positive outlook for Brazil within 5 to 6 weeks. Brazil, not only Brazil, but also I can talk on behalf of Latin America, we are very resilient. Crisis, any kind of crisis has been part of our DNA. Latin America has been, if it's a political crisis, an economic crisis, now it's a healthy crisis. We just know how to manage. So we will surpass and we will go through as we could see in the rest of the world.
That's good to hear. Marcelo, I hope you can hear me loud and clear again.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, before I was asking specifically about Avianca. Avianca recently declared bankruptcy, but they also said they're positive to resume flights.
Okay, got it, sorry.
Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. It's true, Avianca, it filed in the Chapter 11. This is a strategy that several airlines, they do in order to protect their business. So Avianca Colombia, they have lots of investments from the US. They have decided, as they were not obtaining the local government support, they have decided for such strategy. This was filed a few weeks ago. This is very common. Most of the US carriers has been also filed many years ago, and they went through. And the good thing on Colombia, or in case of Avianca, is recently the first approval was positive in order for Avianca to sustain and to keep its operations. Not only to sustain and keep its operations, but also to protect people, leases, negotiations, aircraft leases. So there is still a few steps ahead, but the first one, it's actually crucial for to have which direction Avianca will take place. Of course, aside from that, Avianca, as part of the plan, as any Chapter 11, you need to show a restructure plan. And one of these actions is Avianca Colombia is shutting down the smaller operation in Peru, but the largest one, which is in Colombia, they wish to continue also as well to serve to the majority of the cities. But Avianca was not the only one who recently filed in the Chapter 11. As we can see, LATAM, also the largest airline group in Latin America, has also adopted similar strategy a few weeks ago by accessing US by trying to protect the operations in Chile, in Peru, in Colombia, and Ecuador by presenting a financial reorganizations. LATAM Brazil has not been part of that because LATAM Brazil was supported by the government, but the rest of the group has reached the US in order to continue the business. Again, very similar to Avianca. It's a long way to go, but personally, I believe that both carriers will continue to operate in the region. Of course, they might have to adjust capacity versus demand. They might have to shut down some routes, but they will continue. And also to give you a bit more of what is going on in the region, we also have a mix of own state carriers. So when we look about, for instance, Aerolíneas Argentinas, BOA in Bolivia, TEMI from Ecuador, of course, those carriers at some point, they will receive some support from the government as they are state-owned. But we also have some other airlines such as Aeromexico from Mexico and Copa Airlines from Panama. At least at this point in time, they have zero support. So they have really to survive by their own, by trying to approach banks, negotiate directly with leasing companies and so on. And last but not least, what we also have in Brazil, which has been growing, in Latin America, which has been growing a lot recently, are the low-cost carriers. So we have lots of low-cost carriers such as Amazonas, JetSmart, Viva Air, Volaris, and all of them have to follow similar strategy of Aeromexico and Copa, so they have to find their ways. And so far they have been proven they are able to manage such crises in such difficult times.
It's very useful insights, Marcelo. Thank you very much. Marcelo, AVIAREPS has recently conducted an extensive research together with the WTTC, the European Tourist Commission, which you have mentioned earlier. What kind of countries have you included in your research in Latin America, and what were the key findings from that survey?
Yeah, recently we did the global survey, and I'm sure if the audience has not received it yet, we are about to release what we did for the Latin America. So for our region, we touched, out of the 8 countries that we serve, we touched 7 countries. So exception with the Panama, the majority of the markets we have approached, partners and tour operators. We have been able to track more than 75 specialized players across the region. And to be honest, we do have some good and interesting findings. First one I would like to highlight is when we look about the recovery of the outbound tourism. At least 20% in our region believe it will take place in September, and more than 50% of the partners believe that the outbound recovery will take place before the end of the year. So those are very optimistic findings, as we believe that Brazil and Latin America, we are in the middle of COVID-19 pandemic. So just a few weeks ahead, they expect the recovery of the outbound travel. Also, something important to highlight is, regardless the recovery, more than 50% of them are actually already promoting. So they have restarted their promotions, their business. They are trying to sell as much as they can for the end of the year and try to anticipate future bookings for the rest of for the beginning of 2021. And an interesting aspect is how they are promoting that. As we all know, Latin America, they are very digital. Social media plays a very important role. WhatsApp plays a very important role. So 80% of them are really targeting their promotions throughout mainly digital platforms. Either social medias, either, as I just mentioned, WhatsApps, email markets, and also through the website. So those are the key findings major key findings that we had. And of course, going in line also with other research that we have, it's clear that the first recovery or the first destinations will be domestic, followed by neighbor countries in the region. In case of Brazil, travel to Argentina, to Chile, travel to Colombia, but also US and Europe, mainly Portugal, France also appears as the top 10 destinations for the recovery plan over the next few weeks. And this is actually talking to strong local players in Brazil, such as CVC, the largest tour operator, Decolar or Despegar is largest OTA, Kayak, which is also global meta search. They have similar views and they have similar data, which really goes in line with what we just mentioned.
Okay, fantastic. Marcelo, let me briefly interrupt you because we just received a live question from an international airport. And the question is, can you explain in a little bit more detail and talk in a little bit more detail about Colombia as an outbound market?
Yes, I can. Well, Colombia, it's a very solid country in Latin America. Had a lot of issues in the past, but honestly, over the past 2 decades, it has really presented a solid economic growth linked to also a solid outbound growth. The situation in Colombia, very briefly today, is all international flights are banned until September 1st. So no international flights from to Colombia, just right after September 1st. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, currently Colombia, they have 4.4 million international buyers, and they will continue to travel. Colombia loves to travel abroad. This is also something that it's kind of like a similar sense across the region. Europe and US play also a very big, important role for outbound travels in Colombia. So as we are facing a global crisis, for the next few months will be a bit tough, but I'm extremely confident that outbound markets for the Colombian market will recover fast, and it might be one of the fastest to recover in the region.
Okay, that's very good to hear. It's very good to hear. Marcelo, I'm coming to my last question for today. Many international travel and tourism brands, they usually they participate in a local travel fair to test the water, so to say. The most popular fairs in Latin America and Brazil, I believe, are ABAF and WTM Latin America. Can you again give us an update on those 2 fairs in particular, but also about what's happening in general in Latin America?
Yes, of course. As the majority of the global trade shows that were planned for the first quarter and second quarter, they have been either postponed or canceling. So talking a bit of an update about the Brazilian status, we have one of the largest trade shows is World Travel Market, which is supposed to take place in April, and it was postponed for October this year, and it's still confirmed. Above, also a Brazilian trade show, which originally is planned for September, and it's still confirmed for September. We also have some regional shows happening in the second semester in Brazil, which they are still confirmed. The major international show that has been actually canceled in Brazil this year was ILTM, which is the luxury trade show, which takes place every May. And they canceled this 2020 edition. It will only take place in 2021, also in May next year. When it comes to the region, we also have Argentina having their largest show in November, which is FIT, but they also have decided to postpone, and up to now, it's also confirmed to take place in December. When it comes to Mexico, which is the second largest economy and also plays a very important role in Latin America, surprisingly, we don't have a strong trade show such as World Travel Market, or we might have for MICE, but not as a traditional and big show. Only tour operators trade shows, which usually it's not what our clients are willing to do so. That's why an initiative that we have decided to do a few years ago as AVIAREPS standalone, we have decided to create our small own trade show, which calls the Destino AVIAREPS. So for us to centralize and be a platform to support clients as well, any prospect or non-clients that are willing to meet and do business with key players in Mexico. It happens every year, usually in October. We are going for the 4th edition already in 2020. We have been growing over the past 3 years. Last year, our team in Mexico was able to secure for 3 cities, and we are also expecting to do 3 cities by 2020. So this is something. This is also a strong and good option for interest partners to touch the Mexican market. And then a strong market that also has a solid trade show is Colombia. They also have ANATO, which takes place every February. Luckily, we were able to secure this trade show last February, and up to now, it's also confirmed to take place next year. But looking at the success that our Mexican team was able to deliver about Destino AVIAREPS, our team in Colombia has also decided to touch and to expand these to the Colombian market. So we also did last year for the first time Destino AVIAREPS in Colombia, and we are willing to do so also for the end of the year again. Indeed, as a regional strategy, we will come up later on with some more details, but the idea is really to create this Destino AVIAREPS all over the region, so our partners, our clients can really tap in and decide what countries they are interested in to participate, and we will support them.
Fantastic, Marcelo. So let me summarize. Latin America is a huge destination, if you want, with a population of more than 650 million people. Aviareps has 9 offices in Latin America. Brazil is the biggest in South and Latin America, and there's more than 5 million Brazilians traveling outside the country every year, so year over year. And what we're seeing in many countries around the world, we're seeing something similar in Latin America. The first market to rebound, to recover, is the intra-Latin America travel, if you want. But we're also seeing strong positive indications and forward bookings for September, October for the international travel, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Fantastic. So, Marcelo, let me thank you again for your time today in Sao Paulo. It was a pleasure talking to you and seeing you again.
Thomas, it was a pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity, and looking forward to host and to see most of our clients face to face again very soon.
Absolutely.
Take care.
So thank you very much again, Marcelo. Thank you all that have joined us today. For those who have missed the live stream, you can, of course, watch us on YouTube again, as always. And yes, there will be a live stream number 6 next Tuesday. It will be with our former general manager, Russia, based in Moscow, who's now also the vice president for the CIS region, so also including, for example, the Indian subcontinent. His name is Robert Obolyani. And we look forward to having you all with us next Tuesday again for our next edition of our AVIAREPS live stream around the globe. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you, Marcelo.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Goodbye.
Cheers.